5 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So. Yeah. Hey friends, and thanks for tuning in to Perry Live with Ron Drake. Looking forward to another great show. I've been looking forward to this one actually.
Okay, all right.
Kayla and I we've talked about you a while back, and we just taken a while to get on that. So today's guest, I have Mason Belay with First Bank and First Bank and Trust.
Yeah.
Right. I wrote
Tongue
that
twister.
down.
Tongue
I wrote
twister.
that down so I wouldn't.
You're supposed to write it 3 times. That's the problem.
I probably should have said it 3 times before I even started.
You know, each to their own. Each to their own.
I work in a lot of towns, and so and actually I used to bank at First Bank.
Okay.
In my town.
Okay.
Probably borrowed, I don't know, $1 million or more from them.
Wow.
And then they changed to Generations Bank,
Right.
and then they changed to whatever, and it's hard to keep up with the bank.
That's
names
yeah.
sometimes.
Banks change names.
You got how long has your bank had that name?
Since 1930. Well, no, wait a minute. We were First National Bank, and when we switched to a state bank, we went to First Bank and Trust.
Okay.
So and that was in. Good question.
I've already stumped it.
1936 is when the bank we started First National Bank, and when
Okay.
we went to First Bank and Trust, that's good question.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's time to change. Maybe it's.
You never know. I mean, timing's.
Actually, it's working pretty good for you, so I think I'd stick with it.
We like where we're at.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit about, before we go into the banking, and part of the reason there's several reasons why I'm excited that you're on the show today.
Right.
So tell me a little bit just about you, your life,
Okay.
your kids, family, all
You
that
bet.
stuff.
You bet. So grew up in Perry.
Okay.
Graduated from Perry High School in 2003.
Got a PhD,
Got my
huh?
PhD.
All right.
From there, I went to that long journey to Oklahoma State.
Oh.
Was there for 4 years.
Yeah,
and
was that a shock to the system? Going
that 30 minutes can be very, very far, or it can be really close.
Right.
The whole time stayed involved in production agriculture.
Okay.
Farming with my dad and my grandpa and my uncles and my
Wow.
brother. So
Wow.
lots of minds and lots of opinions there, but somehow we get it all to work.
And all that farm is just right here.
That's correct.
kinda
All here locally.
What do you guys farm?
We grow wheat, corn, soybeans,
Okay.
milo,
Okay.
alfalfa,
That's wow.
cattle,
Wow.
and kids.
Yeah. Right. That's
Kids.
the toughest one.
That,
huh?
Surprisingly, that can be the toughest, mostly because they talk.
Yeah, that's right.
Animals can be hard to corral, but kids can even be harder.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but it's good. So anyway, after Oklahoma State, graduated in 2007 and alternatively certified to teach agriculture education.
Huh.
Spent 2 years teaching ag ed out at Thomas Fay Custer, out in the western
where
part of the
that's
state.
Okay.
North Weatherford.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they're a small community. Spent a lot of time there, and then got married and moved to Tahlequah.
Oh, yeah.
Followed my wife over there where she was in optometry school.
Okay.
And then once I started with the Farm Service Agency there and made farm loans for the government. Got reassigned to Idabel, Oklahoma. So Idabel would be 17 miles from Arkansas and 23 miles from Texas. So
Oh yeah.
way
Okay.
down here.
Yeah, way down there.
Yeah.
Right.
So way down in there, and then went and spent a little time in Okmulgee.
Oh, really? Did we know that? Have we had that conversation?
Maybe briefly. Actually worked in the FSA office, is just a few blocks from downtown. Been down there and thought the whole time, this is pretty neat what they've got going. Had a lot of the old hotel.
Yeah.
It has a restaurant in the bottom. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
The whole project was neat. And then finished my time with the government in Nowata.
Okay.
So common things there. There's a lot of eastern side of the state, but
Yeah.
also a lot of small towns.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was still involved here at Perry. It's a long way to Idabel to come home and feed cattle and check cattle, but came back and forth.
So do you think that when you were going through this whole season, I'm sure probably there was times you're like, man, what am I doing? I'm here and I'm here. I'm all over. Were you always kind of thinking at some point I'm going to come back to Perry?
It's been the plan the whole time. When
Yeah.
I met my wife, there were 3 things that she needed to know that I would not change.
Okay.
And one of those was you were going to come to Perry.
Okay. I think
Close
that's
to it.
really cool.
So,
Yeah. But you said your wife is from Tahlequah.
She's originally from Edmond. We went to Tahlequah. She was in optometry school there. So we met at Stillwater, Oklahoma State.
So she's close. Her family's kind of close
You bet.
by as
And that
well.
was
So that
one of her
probably wasn't-
stipulations. Yeah. She wanted to be close to Edmond. I said, well, define close. So Perry is close. She actually works 2 days a week in Edmond and then works here in Perry locally for Dr. Wilda's office.
Okay. Wow. That's quite a...
Yeah, so that's a long stretch from 2007 and came back.
That's quite a bit in 10 years.
To the bank here at 2013.
Okay.
Started working here and have been at First Bank and Trust doing farm loans and commercial loans at the banks.
So our producer just popped in and gave me a note that says First Bank and Trust 1994.
That's right. So I was going to say the 90s, be good in general.
So it was 30. It was
36 when they put the money back into and started the bank after it failed. And my great grandfather was actually one of the people who put money back into the bank to get it started. So our family has a long vested interest in seeing the bank succeed.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. There's a lot of history here.
Yeah,
a lot of Perry history, a lot of people that care about the community, and that's, coming back. I guess as you work in all those different towns, there's a lot of similarities. Some of them have Walmart, some of them don't. Some of them have restaurants, some of them have, downtowns, and every one of them kind of had the same thing we did. Downtown that was kind of going, I don't want to say going away, but the buildings are old, and those are hard to keep up with.
Right. Well, I mean, so the buildings are old. There's a lot of bridges are old. There's a lot of things. Our country is still relatively young, but we are at that point where these buildings that are 100, 120 years old. I mean, we got to make a decision. Are we going to save them? Or are we going to let them fall? Or are we going to tear them down? Or what are we going to do?
Right.
And I think for the most part, saving them is.
It seems to be a good, viable option. From a lending standpoint, the buildings that are for sale or have sold in the downtown area, your mindset that you've put out is if you can have an apartment upstairs and make it rent, I think is a good model. And from a lending standpoint, I really agree with that.
I had a conversation last night that I'm hoping turns into something really exciting, but with the dealership coming to town, the latest thing, and they're going to be right here, almost a stone's throw from where we are. And some of the conversations that Main Street and I and some of them have been having, and the city has been having about housing and all that. When we kind of throw out this idea of cool loft living, we get often responses like, "Yes, that would be great."
Right.
And so I feel like, so I'm saying this, because I know when you're loaning money, you're really concerned about the speculation aspect. And
you bet.
I feel like we're taking the best we can some of that speculation out of these projects by knowing we're pretty certain we have a clientele out there that's going to rent some of these spaces.
That's correct. And we do have some downtown living. And that seems to be have a continual waiting list for some of those apartments. There's no livable apartments that I know of that are available downtown.
Yeah, I'm living in one, and
I mean, it was you kind of got lucky to get that one. I think
I did. I just literally, I think I was. A blessing.
It wasn't like it had been vacant for a long time.
I snuck in right in between, and I think I just happened to ask like the day the other person turned in their notice or something like that. So
timing is of the essence.
Timing is great. What other? So you're pretty involved guy in a lot of organizations.
You bet.
I mean, what
my wife would say so. Yeah, I think it's part of being a community, being a small town community. Everybody has to, I don't want to say serve their time, but they get to be a part of a lot of things going on.
Yeah, but Mason, so many people say they're too busy.
My response to people who say there's too busy, you have the same amount of time as you have all the time that there is, which is there's 24 hours a day. I had a guy tell me one time, I was telling him I was too busy, I didn't think I'd get it done. He said, Mason, you've got all the time there is. You got 24 hours. Now, what you do with your time is up to you. Trying time management's key, and people are busy. I mean, kids play sports, and you're involved in the church and all those organizations, but you have time for what you make time for too.
Well, and there is also that saying, if you want to get something done, you ask a busy person.
There's times, yeah.
Right, because somehow people that are busy kind of have somehow maybe figured out time management better than others.
Can be, and you can't overstretch yourself. I mean, that's the thing. You don't want to get so involved that you don't do a good job serving. That's one thing I always have to make sure is I don't want to get too many things on my plate at one time.
Right, right. Can I just throw out there, like, do you have a certain organization or group that you work for that you're kind of more pretty passionate about for special reason, or are you just jumping in because you just see a need and you want to help out?
I like all the organizations. I serve currently president of the Rotary Club right
I
now,
knew that.
and chairman for the United Fund, and president of the board for Leadership Noble County.
Okay.
All things that give back locally. They each kind of have their own busy season. Rotary's, it's kind of been year-round, but
year-round type thing.
United Fund and the Leadership Noble County are both kind of, they're pretty hardcore for a little bit, and then they kind of run themselves. Hopefully, I don't have any problems with them. But they kind of run themselves.
Yeah.
So anyway, those two things, and I really like Leadership Noble County because there's so much that we have to offer as a county, and there's so much that goes on that people don't even realize we do. You continually hear people have questions, and you could say a lot of other words on Facebook about how the tax dollars get spent,
Sure.
and they don't know their representative, or they don't know who to contact. And with Leadership Noble County, you actually come down to the city, you talk about the city water bill, you talk about your electric bill, you go down, you see your representatives, and this year I thought it was pretty cool. All three of our representatives said, well, pull out your cell phone, and I'm going to give you my cell phone
That's
number.
cool.
You text me, call me if you have a
That's cool.
question. So I think that's really cool.
That's really cool.
And that's what I really like about our current representatives. But anyway.
So how can someone get involved in leadership Benton County? Because or Benton County. That's where I was. I was a leadership Benton County. Gosh.
If you say it fast, people won't even know what
15
you're
years ago. So Noble County.
Leadership Noble County we'll have our applications or get ready to start coming out, and we'll select the class. Your first meeting will be in August, and it goes typically August through May, and you have one meeting a month. Or we have it called an encounter, where you guys will go and do something in the county.
Yeah, well, again, being a graduate in my county, and then now I speak. I think I might have even spoke one time to your guys' class, and it's very critical. You're right. Most people don't really understand how a lot of things work.
Right.
Not just because I really enjoy the industrial days or the corporate days. I got to go have lunch at Ditch Witch when you guys, the leadership class went out there, and it was just great to hear Dennis Wersbecky talk about the culture of Ditch Witch and how ingrained they are in Perry, and that they're not leaving. We are staying here. We love our employee base, and so some
Dennis
pretty cool
is a good
stuff. Yeah, he's a real good guy.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, first time I met with him when I was here on my first 3-day consultation. It was awesome because again, he's a busy guy. Time management.
Right.
We get there. He takes the little time clock, the little sand dial thing, and turns it over and goes, "Okay, let's go. It's got 30 minutes." Maybe that's what we need for the show, right? We should have one right here so everybody can know
30 minutes
when it's about we're running out of time. So, kind of going back to the banking aspect.
You bet.
Being a local bank, and I appreciate your story too. So a local guy working at a local bank with a family history of involvement in the bank. How important is this effort? We started, maybe I started this by saying it's a downtown effort, but this has really become a community effort, I think, with some of the things Larry Pennell, city manager, is working on, and Mayor Gordon, as far as trying to find housing and land. We're really thinking about a lot of things right now.
Right.
How important is all this to you guys?
We think it's vital for a good downtown. We have two banks in Perry, and we're both on the square.
Yeah.
There's not many communities like that. Both banks have gone through big remodels through the through the history of our banks and stayed downtown when it could probably be more cost effective to move somewhere else and build a new building.
Right.
The old buildings take some time. And for us, we want to do our part. I say our part is help provide financing if we can to projects. We've explored some good options with the projects we're involved in as far as tax credits. And that seems it helps. Obviously, if you have a tax credit that we can sell, it reduces the overall debt, keeps those payments low. That can help that business be successful.
So you guys are working on really actively looking at some, like a tax credit project, for example.
You bet. We've the projects that we do, and when we look at it, someone comes in and says, "Hey, I want to do this business," And my first question is we need to make sure that we get all the tax credits that are possible,
Right.
if possible.
Right.
You know, you could probably elaborate a little bit more on how much that can be.
Right.
But you look at, 50 to 75 cents of every dollar you input to come back to you, that can be pretty substantial when you talk
That's
about
huge.
a $200,000 to $300,000 project on these older buildings. So
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've talked about it a few times, but I'll just mention it again because we're working with the tax credit project here in Perry and hopefully some more. In fact, a quick side note, I won't put you on the spot here, but something to think about, we'll talk about later. Next Tuesday around 11:30, the lady from Oklahoma City that's
Right.
responsible for the tax credits,
Okay.
that has to sign off on things, is going to be in town.
okay,
And I had called her or emailed her and said, Jennifer, we have a potential for so many projects. I would really love for you to get, get her eyes on it and walk through some of these buildings and give me some advice and kind of think about ways we can maybe speed up the process a little bit
yes,
and help her just understand, what's a small town.
Yeah.
It's a small town, Perry. We don't have the opportunity to hire these big, and I know these guys, the big architects in Oklahoma or in Tulsa or
Right.
whatever that do these tax credit projects. They're great guys, but they like to do $2 million to $20 million projects.
Right.
We're talking about, like you said, $200,000, $400,000, maybe some that hit in the $500,000 mark.
right.
So she's going to be here next week.
Okay, cool.
Oh, that was awesome.
You heard it
She's-
first on Perry Live.
That's right. We just announced it live. She was actually supposed to be here today, but with the storms and stuff last night, I think it messed up her schedule a little bit. She wanted to get home early, and so next Tuesday at around 11:30, we'll talk more
Okay.
about it. Maybe I'd love for you to meet her, and in case you have any questions about all
Cool.
this too, because we're educating educating you and educating everybody about the tax credit.
Right.
Which I got really sidetracked saying that, but basically, if you approve, so there's 3 phases. Number 1, here's our building.
Okay.
Does it qualify? Pretty much every building on the square is going to qualify. It's all part of the historic district.
Right.
We have to explain what the architecture and the style and what's in every room and all this stuff, but it's a lengthy application. Number 2, here's what we want to do to the building. So we actually have a pretty well finished set of plans right now on one of the buildings. And we're going to show it to her. And if they say, yes, we like that, then step 3 is we do what we say we're going to do.
Right.
We get through all of those steps, then we send pictures, and I think they may come and tour it, and boom, it has to go to the National Park Service. Comes back. It takes a little bit of time. It does slow those things down, but let's just say it's a $500,000 project, and we get a 20% state tax credit, 20% federal tax credit, which is $100,000. You can sell. We know we can sell. I just had a friend of mine in Okmulgee sell her tax credits for 90 cents on the dollar, the state. So, she, you'd get 90,000 cash
Right.
that could turn around and give back to you.
Yes,
to
of course.
pay down
Come
the
back,
loan.
come back, pay down the loan. Pay down the loan.
Pay down the loan, or again, so now some of this you talk to your tax accountant when you guys get closer.
Yep.
Because what we did on our projects is we actually paid bills with it.
Right.
So that way there's no income. We literally paid bills as opposed to paying down the note. That was a challenge too because some of those bills were hanging out there longer than I would have liked them to.
Right.
But so there's several ways, and then the federal tax. So now a $500,000 tax credit that we're going to show will cash flow at $500,000
Correct.
is going to be cut by $200,000, so it's going to cash flow even better.
Right. And that helps that business. I mean, some of these businesses that are coming in may, the payment may not work at that full $500,000 loan, and when you get the tax credit, it brings it down.
It brings it down.
But there's every financing situation is different. It's
Yeah.
one thing people need to know, and coming in and talking is, communication is always key.
Right.
To look at your viable business plan.
So is it safe to say right here on the air that you want people to come in and talk to you about these projects?
You bet.
I mean,
You
this
bet.
is something you guys want to look at. And,
I always want to look at them.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, you can't finance them all.
That's
but-
correct. That's
but
correct.
maybe 90%.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I could say I've done 90% of the ones that have come
Of everybody that walks in the bank.
in. But everybody's financing situation is different,
Right.
and so you never know unless you come in and talk about it. And you kind of have to have, gotta have the passion, I think, to want to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them that just, it's not going to do itself.
Yeah.
You're going to have the mindset. You're going to have to roll your sleeves up and deal with some, I don't want to call it red tape, but some long drawn outness
Sure.
of waiting on people to get it done just right. I think once we get one or two of them completed, it will continue to spur. My challenge would be for our community to continue to support it.
Yeah.
And not just once, not come down to the restaurant or the store and go, oh gosh, it was just such a long line. I'm not cut. They got plenty of people. Well,
Yeah.
that works for the first week or 2
Right.
weeks. It needs to be continual, and just like in any business, there's going to be kinks to iron out. I mean, it doesn't go smooth day one.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you say that, because I was at one point in my career was really fortunate to build. This is like later in Siloam Springs evolution, to where, I think we had already been named like maybe the number 14 best small town in America. So we had some great momentum. We put in a first-class restaurant. We had an executive chef out of Johnson who was named one of the best chefs in Arkansas that said,
Right.
hey, I trust in this little town. I think it'll be kind of fun to do a different. Okay, we have all of this. We have the good backing, and still the first month they struggled. I mean, this guy knew what he was doing.
Right.
But because the community was so excited and there were so many people, and you never know from day to day on a lunch if you're going to have 10 people or 100 people show up.
Right.
So, I guess, and now it's fantastic. And so I'm encouraged, again, to say, I want to just reiterate that. Have patience.
Yes.
Come and support, of course, but, if the service takes a little bit longer than you would like or whatever, don't assume that they're going to have all these kinks worked out.
Right. You
First
just
month.
you can't you can plan, you can have plan A,
Yeah.
plan B, and plan C, and sometimes
Right.
we get all the way down there to Z or X before
Right.
we really get going.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
is okay.
It
It's
is.
really okay.
It is.
It's not in our business, along with banking, but in farming business, there's several times we have to readjust our plan.
Right.
Which is okay. I mean, you do
Yeah.
the best you can and hope for the best.
I see a little note paper here. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's for this show or if you just were.
It's to keep me calm. No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
So I don't know if you had some
There's
type
some
of questions
fun,
or something
some fun,
for me, or
yeah,
some fun facts,
some
or
fun
about-
banking facts. So
Oh, okay,
in
that's cool.
in Noble County or in Perry, actually, the
Yeah.
average mortgage rate is 4.437.
Wow.
So now, whether remember that's an average.
That's
So there's some up and down there,
that's
and we're
a
coming
low average.
We're coming off of historically low rates.
Sure.
So interest rates have started to tick up. Another thing that I think is cool: 61% of the people in Perry are married.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Okay.
there's about 782 people per square mile.
782 per square mile.
Yep.
And so let's see if there must be about 6 or 7 square miles in Perry.
Yeah, that's call it how you want. But that's about 782 people. So
I'm trying to do some math.
yeah, so not a whole lot of people, and the cost of living in Perry is about 11% lower than the rest of the average cost
Right.
of the United States.
Right.
So when you take the whole United States, we're 11% lower on cost of living.
So we've talked about this on other episodes, but it is kind of funny saying all that stuff. That's pretty phenomenal. Those are great stats. Those are great reasons why you'd want to live in Perry. But oftentimes, the one thing people will continue to complain about is the utilities are high,
Right?
even though everything else on the whole entire spectrum is considerably lower. Property tax is lower.
Property tax Oklahoma has a historically low property tax
Right.
state. So the utility bills, I'll take the fifth on that one. I mean, there's.
Well, I mean, so it's something that gives you something to work on, but I think that we still let's not focus as a community on that being the reason why you don't want to move to Perry or live in Perry because utility rates are high. I mean, I think that there's enough other positive things.
I'll spin it a little more.
Do it.
Take the challenge and become involved.
Right.
Most of the people who have questions about that, and in leadership in Noble County, we challenge people, get involved. Get involved in a club, an organization, run for city council, and don't just run, but run to be involved. Run to be that person that digs in and really then can go out and get the message. Hey, this is, we're not that bad, or we are, and we're working on it.
Right.
This is what we're trying to do to make it better.
And this is we're getting a lot more and more meetings, and maybe things like this show is helping and whatever. But people coming and talking with me and talking with Kayla at Main Street and saying, I want to open a business. I feel like now is a good time to open a business. And, there's like maybe a gap that's missing because Walmart moved out. And so we can't fit the whole Walmart gap, but we can fit this little gap maybe of people that were. And so, again, it's an importance of the community support.
Correct.
Right? It's the importance of the people of Perry supporting these new businesses, because you want let's use utility rates to go down. You want them to go down. We need to increase our sales tax in the community. I mean, right? Isn't it kind of a scale like that?
Yeah, there's several ways and ideas on how to bring utility rates down. Just like any budget you have, whether it's your household budget or your business budget, you look at income versus expenses, and just like state budget. I mean, they have revenue and they have expenses, and you examine each one. And sometimes we don't have a revenue problem; we have a spending problem. And some people have a revenue problem. So anyway, there's just several ways to slice that.
I wasn't trying to get off on a utility thing. I felt like the rest of that stuff was really
the positive things.
Very positive. Yeah.
And so at the same time, if someone is concerned, I encourage them to visit with their councilman, and not just complain,
blast it on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I heard that saying the other day. It says, if you can't say something nice, just post it on Facebook. I mean, it used to be, if you can't say anything nice, don't say it at all.
Yeah.
And that's what I want my kids to understand. If you can't say anything nice, don't say it at all. But don't post it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, let's.
That is pretty amazing.
Let's think about it. Let's talk about them. Let's call them. And then if they don't want to give you the answer, then you post it on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, I think we are kind of running short on time. You got something we missed? Is there anything we missed as we're talking about all this? I mean, I think you seem excited about this the potential and opportunity here.
My plan all along has been to come back to Perry, come back home, and my wife was a little concerned. Obviously, growing up in Edmond and then coming to a small town can be somewhat of a, I don't want to say shock, but a culture change, going from 24-hour Walmart to just Walmart, or stores around the corner to, hey, now we get these things. And she really enjoys the small town aspect of everybody knowing and seeing people and being involved in the community and the importance of it. She works downtown, like I said, at Dr. Wilda's office, and when people, you see them as a patient, and then you go to church with them, and then you see them at your kids' ball games. Those are just things that you can't create other places.
Yeah, that's right. It was funny. Kayla and I were walking in, I think, just before the show today. Somehow I got a notification on Facebook about live music and one of my favorite spots in Palm Springs, and I was like, I wonder what I love about that. And I said, what? I love that I can walk there, go in, and seriously, say hi to the first 20 people I come in. And I know them. And so having that community gathering place is super cool. It goes all the way back to why the show Cheers was so successful, or Friends was so successful, or whatever. So that's what I'm hoping that we're really going to,
and we do have
bring
a lot of
in the downtown.
Good events that go on downtown. We're coming off Springfest last weekend, and we do Mingle on Main, and there's some things that keep the community going, and really it's something people say, well, there's nothing to do. I challenge you there. If you read the paper and look, there's something going on every night. Every night. Right. It may not be what you want to do, but there's something going on every night.
Well, and we're kind of playing around with some ideas at Main Street to come up with some Thursday night events and things like that, just to give people something to do. And the Mingle on Main is going to change to a different location.
Okay.
Over by Wally Schiffer's.
Okay.
We're talking about. I think it's okay to say that, because that's just a unique space. It looks like it should be a community gathering space. And so we're going to try something in a little bit tighter area, and maybe some food trucks and different things. So that'll be kind of fun.
Food's good, man. I'll tell you.
Gotta have food.
Yeah,
gotta have food.
Everybody likes food. We like to grow it so people can eat it.
Yeah, right.
People forget that farmers should grow the food, that it doesn't just come from a food truck. And there's a big misconception.
What do food trucks do then?
Yeah. Where do they get their food? The grocery store? Where do they?
That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys grow food trucks too?
We could grow some food trucks if we needed to.
Well, my friend.
You bet.
Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah,
I do appreciate
glad to be
it.
here.
And I'm looking forward to working with you more down the road on hopefully a bunch of projects.
Yeah, we want lots of
I think
Let's fill them up.
Yeah, I know. Let's fill them up. Friends, thanks for turning in to Perry Live today, and we'll be back next week, and we'll have something more, something else, fun and exciting, things that are happening in downtown Perry. So, signing off. See ya.